everybody. Welcome back to Once Upon a Page. We have another interview for you today. We are speaking with Michelle De Bruin. She lives in Iowa with her husband and 2 teenage sons. She has a bachelor's degree in religion with a Christian ministry emphasis and in music. And she is the spiritual services provider for an organization that offers services for people with physical and mental disabilities. She's a member of ACFW who writes inspirational historical romance about people in rural communities. And her books are part of a series, Hope for Tomorrow, Promise for Tomorrow, and just out in November of this past year, Dreaming of Tomorrow. I've read the first two. I have the other one in my to-be read list. And looking forward to that. I've enjoyed the other two.
Good.
And we are going to start with our questions. And I'm going to let Amy start.
Okay.
Okay, so my first question is, what can readers expect when they pick up one of your books?
Okay. Yeah, that's good. That's a good question. So I would like to say that readers can expect to have some sort of scriptural application in the story. So I try to write stories that have picked up a spiritual truth, and then throughout the plot line, we see it play out. Like how does this truth affect our lives? How does it affect how we relate to others? How does it affect how we better understand God? And then I also hope that they would be able to expect some humor and just be able to have some laughs, and also have some times that are poignant or nostalgic, maybe even a little sad.
I say you do a really good job of that. I know for sure in that first book, there were some scenes that definitely made me chuckle, and there were those poignant scenes as well. My first question, as a writer, do you have a local support group? And if so, what does it mean to you?
Oh, yeah. So I have, so it's probably a bit non-traditional. I don't have like a formal writers club where I go and meet with people and bring a bunch of loose papers and we go around and read and talk about each other's. Like I don't really have anything like that necessarily. There's a lot of other people that write in the town where I live. They do some memoirs, they write some articles for our local paper. They've done some things we have kind of a local publishing office here that has done some historic telling local history type of things, different from writing history as a genre, but just a local publisher that has done some of that. So there's lots of writers, so I don't have to go very far to try to find a network. I have a feeling if we did try to pull together a formal writers group, it'd be like 200 people would show up, because there's so many people that like, well, I write too, let's go and learn from each other. So that would be fun, but I don't necessarily have something structured like that. Instead, my support group is my family, my parents, my aunt, my cousins, people in my congregation, the guy who runs the bookstore.
That's always a good one to have.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, Phil at the Eagle's Nest. I appreciate him a lot. So I guess that's my support group. There's lots of layers to it, but it's non-traditional, I guess. So
I think we all have sort of non-traditional groups, because like Heather and Erin don't live anywhere close to me, but we're our own little group. And then I have a couple girls here that I meet with some, and I just feel like, we all have those other support systems, like our families, and it takes all of them to make it work.
Yeah, it kind of depends what you feel you need support for. Like if you need support learning how to write, well, then you need a different group for that. But if you just enjoy good relationships with people, then you can find support in a lot of different places. So
Definitely.
I guess
Very
that's
true.
more mine. But anyway.
Okay, so my next question
Mhm.
is, are there any books or authors who have inspired you in writing your particular genre?
You know, that's a progressive question. So way back in the day, like 10 years ago, when I was just playing around with the idea of, wouldn't it be something if I could really pull this off and write historical fiction? I don't know. Let's see what happens. You know, back in those days, and I wasn't even really taking it very seriously. I really appreciate Jeanette Oak's writings. I kind of stumbled across her in high school. I really didn't expect to find that, but I stumbled across her. So I enjoy all of her books. I had some time. So Rachel Hauck's books, I like the ones that she writes about royalty. Those are good. Once Upon a Prince, and
Mhm.
there's a Christmas one, and I don't remember the titles, but they're all in one series. So I've appreciated her. As I've written, I learned a lot about the actual nuts and bolts story structure by reading Rachel Hauck's. Her books are laid out very well. So I like reading her books on Kindle, actually, because I can see when down in the little corner it says at 25%. I know, okay, there's something supposed to be happening here. And then at like halfway through, and then there's a couple other points that I like to read her books on Kindle because it's precise. So that I learned a lot from her about story structure, but then such a wonderful discovery I have made this winter. I don't know if you ladies have watched Masterpiece Theater much or not, but I like to watch. So here in Iowa, it's on Iowa Public Television. Oh, pulled out my earbud. Hang on a minute. Okay, there we go. Restored connection. So Masterpiece Theater is on here in Iowa Public Television, 8 o'clock on Sunday nights. And through January, February, they ran the newest edition of All Creatures Great and Small. Such a charming series. Oh my word. So I was hooked. I watched the first show just to see kind of what, because I trust Masterpiece Theater and I like to watch their things. So after I watched that, I thought, I need to investigate this. So those movies, you know, from this first season are all based on a series of books that James Herriot wrote. And so I've been enjoying going through and reading James Herriot. So now I have a whole new level to my inspiration that wasn't there even like 6 months ago. So I love how this works. Like we can learn from voices from the past, and we're always growing and expanding and learning. And so that's where I'm at as far as who's inspired me. I'm still getting inspired.
Yes,
I
me
hope
too.
we all are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
My next question, speaking of inspiration,
Mm-hmm.
is there a Bible verse or passage that you draw inspiration from in your writing?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I really can't just say one. I think each story has it's like a supersized devotional. My blog posts are like 500 to 700 words, but then you crank out a book that's 85,000 words. So that's like a supersized, but I usually have like one or two verses that informs the direction of the plot or informs the development of the characters for that story so that I get across the point that I want to make. So some that I guess some verses that I rely on just overall have been they come out of the Psalms. I appreciate Psalm 27, Psalm 86, Psalm 95, Psalm 121, Psalm 91. I know I quoted Psalm 1 in one of the books. This fourth book that I'm actually working on that will be published in August with Scrivenings Press. I'm quoting a couple verses from Psalm 23 for that one.
Now, is that book in the same series, or is it different?
No, we will, it'll be the first book of a new series, but the minor characters that we've gotten to meet in the first series are going to have their own stories in this
Yay!
Love
coming.
that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this first book, Karen, the heroine from the first series, Karen's mother is going to come to town. Since you haven't read the third book yet, Heather, I won't tell you why, but she's going to come to town and she's going to get to know the doctor, Dr. Kaldenberg, who lives in Oswald City. And then the second book is going to be, I'm actually writing that manuscript now because I already have the first one turned in. So that one is going to be two of Karen's students, Agnes, the little girl that had pneumonia in the first book,
Yeah.
and then Lacey Jones, she was kind of slow, kind of sickly. She needed some extra tutoring. Those girls they're grown up now, and they travel together to Oswald City and they have some adventures. So Lacey is the heroine of the second book, and then Agnes, she's determined to change her name to Rose. She wants a whole new identity, and she's going to be the heroine of the third book.
Well, I've got to get busy and read the last book in the first series, so I'm ready for the
So
first.
you're ready. There you go. Sounds good.
Yeah, those sound really fun. Okay. Is there an author, either dead or alive, could be any author that's ever existed, that you would like to meet, and what would you ask them?
Yeah, I'm a big Tim Keller fan. He's a Presbyterian pastor in New York City, and he's a pretty prolific writer. He's got struggled with some cancer here lately, but he seems to be on the mend, and just a great preacher. Oh man, if I had even a fraction of the public speaking skills Tim Keller had, I would feel like I had totally arrived. But so I've usually got some Tim Keller book, whether it's one of his devotionals or whether it's one of his longer nonfiction, just in the works all the time. So I'm just always kind of thinking on him, and his thought process informs mine. And so I would really like to sit down with him and talk about what does ministry look like in New York City, especially now after we've had all of this upheaval with election and new administration coming in, and just all of the conflicts over coronavirus and how to manage that within New York City, and just how do you keep your feet on the ground, continuing to tell the truth and be warm and appealing to people as you're preaching the gospel. That's what I would like to have conversation about with him.
Cool. Yeah, I like his writing as well.
Yeah.
My last question is a little more fun.
Okay.
If your books were made into a movie, who would you cast as the main characters, main female lead and main male lead?
Okay. I have a little bit of a problem on deciding the male lead because I have some actors that I really like, and they all are the blonde-haired tall guy that totally fits the persona of my hero, but they all have English accents.
Maybe they can fake it.
I know. That would not quite fly in a little Midwestern town out here in Iowa. Nobody here. We're doing good to get our T's and our D's pronounced. Nobody here has British accents. I just laugh at that. Oh my. I haven't ever really thought about that. I have no idea who I would cast. I don't know. I'm gonna have to get back to you on that one. I'd love to put Rupert Penry Jones in as, he was the guy who played, I know he's on some TV series in England, but he's the guy who played Captain Wentworth in the BBC rendition of Persuasion. I would like to find a reason to have him act out one of my books, but I don't know if it would not serve him well to expect him to learn Midwestern dialect. That would be a shame. So I don't know. I really don't have a good answer for that one. Sorry about that.
We will let you think about it.
Okay.
And If you get them to us before we air the video, we will put them in the comments section so everybody can see who you choose.
Okay, all right. I'll ask my husband about that because he pays more attention to American actresses anyway than I do. So I'll ask him.
If it makes you feel any better, I really hope that Heather never asks me that question about any of my books, because I don't know any of the actors or actresses if they aren't in a Marvel movie lately.
Yeah, there you go. That's right.
Like
That's
right.
right.
All the movies that I've seen in the most recent past.
So
now, if you go back to like when I was in high school, if I can cast all those actors and actresses the way they looked back then, then I might be able to think of somebody.
Exactly.
So I have to ask the question though, do you guys have like an image? Like when I'm writing a book, I think about what the person looks like and I find a person and I use that image as I'm writing. Do you guys do that?
So for my for my first book, that image lasted me like for 3 books. So then I started it long enough ago, like I was still getting JCPenney's catalogs in the mail, which we don't do that anymore, but there was a blonde model in there that looked just exactly like how I wanted my heroine to look. So I cut her little profile out and taped it inside the file that I was using. But since then, I've figured out places to go for free photos online, and I have some Pinterest boards, and so as I find people that resemble what I have in mind, then I'll make a board or I'll add them to something like that. So that part has gotten a lot easier, but I usually do have someone in mind. Yeah. So the funny thing is, I have to tell you a little story though about the place where I work. Every Wednesday morning we do training for new hires, and so I always go in and give about a 20-minute spiel about the spiritual services piece of the organization and what we do and how it affects new staff and just things for them to keep in mind. So I always get to know the names of the new staff that comes in. So one of the new staff, his name was Joe Kent. I'm like, oh my word, you've got to be kidding me, because this was the exact same name as the villain in my first book. I didn't dare tell him that because he was such a nice guy and he'd suffered such a major loss in his life. So he would, when we go to Pollock picnics and things in the park or whatever in the summer, he would kind of seek me out and tell me his life story. I'm like, there is no way I can turn around and tell this guy that, you know what, you have the same name as the bad guy in my first book. That would have been too bad. He didn't look anything like him though, so that at least I wasn't seeing him whenever we talked. But just one of those freak things that happened. Anyway, I just really appreciate that the publishing company puts in the front that little disclaimer that says no likeness is intentional between fictional characters, and however they word that, and real people. So hopefully nobody ever sues me later or something, sends me hate mail because the bad guy is the real name of their favorite uncle who died last year or something. But anyway.
Well, Michelle, we have really enjoyed getting to chat with you tonight and getting to know you a little more. And we are looking forward to this new series that you have coming out later this year. And I need to go finish reading the first series. I started it and then didn't get any further than the first book, but I will eventually.
If you don't like it, it's okay. If you get busy with other things that are more interesting to you, that's okay.
I don't know if there's more interesting, it's just more urgent.
More urgent. I get that. Yep, that's right.
She's only probably writing 15 books right now, you know?
I'm not actually. I'm rewriting one. But we've really enjoyed having you, and we hope that all of our viewers have enjoyed watching you. We're going to put links in the information section so they can go look you up and find out more about you too.
Okay, sounds
And
great.
yeah, we will see everybody next time. Look for more videos with Erin in the future. Hopefully she'll be well soon. And more author interviews further down the road. Until next time, bye.
Bye.